And today I am going to tell you a place that God told me never, ever go to blank.
Brothers of the word, because brother, you need the word. Brothers of the word.
Welcome to Brothers of the Word, because brother, you need the Word. And I have been preaching for almost the last 2 years a series of 16 messages. Now, I've come back and forth as God has led me to do. I'll preach one of the series, then deal with what else God is dealing with me, and then come back to the series. So today I'm going to deal with one of those 16 messages. And these were the words that God spoke to me. They have power and they are keys that will help so many of you in this life. And it's the Power of God series. Matthew 16:19, and I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Key number 1, how to increase your peace, power, and prosperity. Key number 2, a big secret of money. Number 3, how to control your pressure. Number 4, the main thing to do to get in flow. Number 5, how to conquer your phone addiction. Number 6, how to be happier in your car. Number 7, how to conquer things that you were unable to conquer in the past. Number 8, the 3 S's of discipline. Number 9, when you have stuff in you that you cannot control. Number 10, 2 fruits that are as good as fasting. 11, the one place God told me to never go. Number 12, how do you forgive? Number 13, do this in your workplace and home to increase the health and efficiency of your body. Number 14, how to never be sick. Number 15, do not look for strength nor salvation in this person. And number 16, why this pain? So it has been about 18 months since God spoke this particular word to me. And for many of you, you know I travel extensively. And I always ask God, where do I go? And he will generally lead me to a place. And what God has spoken to me, he said, you will change more people as you travel than you will in the church. Because he'll speak stuff to me, I'll go up to people and speak a word or give them something, and it's a shock to them, but it shows them that God is there, he's alive, he sees and hears them, and it changes them. So I'll ask God often, where do I go? But 18 months, God spoke these exact words. Never, ever go to Haiti. Now, I looked up how many countries I had been to because, as you know, my youngest son and I, George, we had gone through Portugal for a month. We walked this trail through Portugal, and he asked me, he said, Daddy, how many countries have you been to? And I didn't know. So I had to pull up a list, number 1, of all of the countries in the world. There are 195 countries in the world. And I went through and checked all of the ones that I could remember I've been to, because it's probably 1 or 2 of them I don't even remember going to. But so far, I've been to 46 countries. And out of the 195 countries, there's only 1 country that God has told me, never, ever go to Haiti. And I want to speak to you today from the simple message of power from God when the door is closed. There are some things that God will tell you, never do this thing. Acts chapter 16, New King James Version, beginning at verse 6. Now when they had gone through Phrygia and the region of Galatia, they were forbidden by the Holy Spirit to preach the word in Asia. After they had come to Mysia, they tried to go to Bithynia, but the Spirit did not permit them. So passing by Mysia, they came to Troas, And the vision appeared to Paul in the night. A man of Macedonia stood and pleaded with him, saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." Now, after he had seen the vision, immediately we sought to go to Macedonia, concluding that the Lord had called us to preach the gospel to them. Now, Paul was told by the Holy Spirit, don't go to Asia. Don't preach in Asia. Now, you would think, why would God tell you not to preach somewhere? God knows some stuff you don't know. And when you are in a place where God has told you not to go, nothing's good is going to come out of that in the long run. That may feel good to you for a minute, but nothing's good going to come out of that in the long run. And when you are in a place where God has told you to be, there are going to be untold blessings that will come from that, even though you may not see the blessings for a while, because often God will send you through the wilderness to get to the promised land. But you pass your judgment on the wilderness, never knowing that there's a promised land, but he's sending you through this direction to get to the promised land. But you curse and fuss and leave the path in the wilderness and never get to your promised land. So here God told him, don't preach here, don't go there, but you go to Macedonia. There were places even Jesus would not go. John 7:1. After these things, Jesus walked in Galilee, for he did not want to walk in Judea, because Jews sought to kill him. Now the Jews' feast of tabernacles was at hand. His brothers therefore said to him, "Depart from here and go into Judea, that your disciples also may see the works that you are doing. For no one does anything in secret while he himself seeks to be known openly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world." For even his brothers did not believe in him. Then Jesus said to them, "My time has not yet come, but your time is always ready. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me, because I testify of it that its works are evil. You go to this feast. I am not going up to this feast, for my time has not yet fully come." When he had said these things, he remained in Galilee. So Jesus said, look, you go, but I'm not going. It's not time for me to go yet. See, some places it's meant for you to go, but it's not time. Some of you, it's not time for you to get that car now. And if you seek God on it, he'll tell you it's not time. It's not time for you to get that house now. It's not time for you to get that job now. It's not time for you to get that husband or wife now. So sometimes your time has not come, and the right thing in the wrong time becomes the wrong thing. So you have to be sensitive to God on his timing as well as his will. Matthew 2:19. Now when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, "Arise, take the young child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the young child's life are dead." Then he arose, took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea instead of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And being warned by God in a dream, he turned aside into the region of Galilee. And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene. Paul was told not to preach in Asia and not go to Bithynia. Jesus could not go to Judea. Jesus' earthly father Joseph also could not go to Judea. God will shut the door on some places for you. But it's not just places that God will shut the door on. God has told me not to go see some movies. Y'all remember there was this movie, Django? He said, never, ever go see Django. Now, I don't even know what that's about because I haven't seen it. I want to see it. I ain't going to lie to you. I want to see it. I'm telling you, it's this movie, a Western starring Jamie Foxx, and the previews look real good. He said, never, ever go see Django. And I've seen all kind of, I said, what can be so bad about that movie? See, it's one thing I've learned. I hate to be in a position where I say to myself, that's why God told me not to do that. And I've learned not to go through this stuff to heart, because some people, they have to go through this stuff. And they have to go, and some people will do something that God has told them not to do, and they end up regretting this thing for the rest of their days. And they can then realize, that's why God told me not to do that. So I've seen this stuff, and I've seen it with me. And I said, I'm not going to see, I can't watch it. I can't go to the theater. I can't stream it. I can't buy the DVD. If I'm over somebody's house and they got it on, I got to go out of the room. I can never, ever watch Django. So there's some movies that God has forbidden. There's a book God has forbidden. It's the book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. He said, never read that book. This is one of the greatest business books and positive thinking books of all time. It was one of my father's favorite books. And he said, for you, never ever read Think and Grow Rich. And I remember I was on the expressway. At the time, I had a Mercedes S-Series car, riding along just as smooth, and I was talking with Pastor James on the phone. And Pastor James went to telling me about Think and Grow Rich. He said, this is in the book. This is in the book. This is what the book says about this. And all of a sudden, pow, my tire blew out. My tire blew out. So I'm on the expressway. All of a sudden, my car goes to fishtailing. I got to pull out. I said, Jane, look, don't tell me another word about that book, so I can't even discuss. It's one of the classics. I don't see anything wrong with it. I have no idea why God has forbidden me to read and what I saw even discuss, Think and Grow Rich. There are some people who are forbidden to me. And God has told me some people, so look, I want you to break away from them, and you stop associating with them. And sometimes, usually, when God will tell you this, you kind of have an idea why. But I had this one really good friend that I'd been friends with since college, and I was just really good friends with him. He said, break away from this fella. He's not good for you. Break away from him. But I didn't want to, because I'd been friends with him all these years. We'd been through a lot of stuff together. But I kind of understood why God wanted me to break away from him, because he was always negative. Good, had a heart to go, but just always negative. He just saw the negative in everything. He saw the negative in. If it was, if it was a glass half full, he didn't see that it was half empty. He found something wrong with the glass. Good fella. But it wasn't good for me. And God said, look, this fellow's holding you back. So sometimes God, and it's interesting, God has told me to break away from some men. He's never told me to break away from any women. And you think, well, Pastor, that ought to be your biggest danger. And for most men, it may be. But he put a mama in my life. And mama gave me some advice that when I was single, I always followed this advice. Because mama told me, son, you ought not to be fooling with these women. And I knew mama was right. But it's like there was this African fella, and they were discussing fornication. And the African fella, he says, yes, I don't believe in fornication. I don't believe in that. He said, but that don't mean I don't do that, though. So I knew mama was correct. But I was a young man. I was full of hormones and all of this kind of stuff. So I just wasn't concerned about what Mama was saying. So Mama says, son, if you won't stop fooling with women, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't you deal with anyone who you do not want to be the mother of your child. And when Mama said that, do you know that thing changed my behavior? And before I would date anybody, would I want this woman to have my child? It eliminated about 95% of them. It sure did. So Mama, I followed earthly wisdom that eliminated just a whole lot of folk. Because I looked at them not in terms of how the body was. Would I want this woman to be the mother of my child? And if the answer of that question was no, I didn't fool with her. So sometimes God will send you wisdom and his divine guidance through parents and through a wise person, but you got to have sense enough to listen. But so often with many of us, the forbidden part and the door that is closed, it's people. AV, if you would, I want you to play this video clip about people. And
sit within 25 feet of a high performer, your own performance improves by 15%. Here's the kicker. If you sit within 25 feet of a low performer, your own performance decreases by 30%. This means that our negative emotions are more contagious. That if you're around people who are low performers, whatever that means to you, who have negative cues, who are feeling anxious or tired or low confident, you could catch those cues and that affects your own performance. This is why it is incredibly critical to invest in the 5 people who you spend the most time with. You want to make sure those 5 people are the cues you want to catch. Do you like the cues they're sending? Do they give you the right motivation, feelings? Do they make you feel liked? Do they make you a better version of yourself?
Now, this is just about people. So God will give us sometimes guidance. And he'll tell you, look, don't go with that person. Don't fool with this person. Don't fool with that man. Don't fool with this woman. And it's guidance because it is critical. And do you know what those studies showed? If you're within 25 feet of a high-performing person, it increases your own performance 15%. But if you're within 25 feet of a low-performing person, it decreases your performance twice as much as the high-performance person increases it. So it takes 2 high-performing folk to offset 1 negative person. Who do you have as your 5 closest associates? And sometimes this will cause us, because if you want to get to another level, and often many of us want to get to another level, we just don't want to change anything. We want to go up, we just don't want to change anything. And I asked God once, I remember I was driving, I said, Lord, how do I get to the next level? How do I get to the next level? The answer that he spoke was so simple, but it was so profound. He says, you cannot get to the next level without leaving the level you're on. Now, that's it. You know, that seems to be obvious and simple, but a lot of us don't want to leave the level that we're on, and God will sometimes tell you, close the door to that relationship. Close the door to that, because people will be your most influential things, not places, people. They will be your most influential thing, and God will put in your spirit, get away from these folk, because you will never get to the destiny that I have for you as long as you hang around them. They drinking and smoking and getting high and laughing, and ain't nothing wrong with laughing, but that's all they're doing. So it makes a difference. You will think like, you will feel like, you will look like whoever you're running around with. So look at the 5 folk you spend your most time with, your closest 5 associates, and looking at them will determine where you go. I just left the month-long walk with George in Portugal, and it was a really good example of how who you hang with pulls you one direction or another. First of all, I followed him the whole trip because he stayed in front of me. And he was walking fast. And I was saying to myself, look like he would wait on his daddy. But he would just be walking. And then when I saw him, he not only was walking, he was walking strong. He had this stride that was just strong as he walked. So I'm behind him, going up and down these mountains and up and down this hill, and I'm just a puffing. But because of who I was hanging with, it pulled me to another level. Now, if I'd have been with somebody else who was just, couldn't have, you know what that would have done? Yeah, it would have slowed me up tremendously. And instead, George pushed me to where every time I did a post, I was breathing hard because I was keeping up with George. And he was pushing me to my very limit and may have been beyond my limit trying to keep up with him. So it makes a difference who you travel with. And then I was worried about these mountains because it was just dangerous. I mean, it was the mountain, little narrow curves, and I was going around this, and it'd be cliffs, and the cliff would literally be 2 feet away, and it's just straight down, 200 feet, straight down the rock. So if you fell, you were dead. And then the wind howling, just blowing you, and I'm clean. It's just scaring me to death. And the first day, George said, he said, I'm not a fan of these mountains. But by the time we got to the third walk, he says 2 things. He says, number one, I've turned not a fan into fun. I'm enjoying this now. And he says, the second thing is, I realized that even if it did blow me over, it's going to be a quick death, and I'm going to heaven. So his whole mindset moved from fear to fun. So it makes a difference who you travel with, because fear is contagious, and so is courage. If you're around somebody that just scared, it makes you scared. Emotions are contagious. So I just saw Jess with this trip. Then my eating changed. My eating changed because, number one, I saw him disciplined. He loves pizza. Love himself some pizza. But he says, Daddy, I've disciplined myself that I only have pizza once a week. So every Sunday or Monday, we had pizza. But he only had pizza once a week. So I saw extreme discipline. Then I saw he was eating much better than I was eating. Most of his meals were vegan or vegetarian and really, really clean. And I said, goodness, he putting it dead. So it caused me to improve my diet just by looking at what the other fellow was eating. And if you round somebody and they eating chitlin and hog maws with hot sauce, it's going, well, shoot, these fries ain't that bad. So it will change who you travel with, changes you. So people are one of the things that God will shut the door on. Too often, the human nature, from its very beginning, is drawn to stuff we're not supposed to have. Do you know that in the Garden of Eden, there were all these trees, and God told Adam and Eve, look, you can have all these trees, eat from any of these trees. It's just this one tree. Just do not eat from this one tree. And in the center of the garden was the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He said, just don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, AV, if you would play the second clip. I am getting ready to buy some of this tamarind fruit. I've never had any tamarind before. I've never even seen any. They ask me, well, why you buying it? I'm buying it because it's what the book of Enoch says was the tree in the middle of the Garden of Eden. It was a tamarind tree, not an apple tree, a tamarind tree. So I'm going to try some of this forbidden fruit. I'll let you know. Stay tuned. Now, that's the human nature. I don't know why it is we want the forbidden fruit. All those fruit trees, and look like if you had 2 trees in the garden, you had the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Look like you would have at least eaten of the tree of life first. No, they didn't touch the tree of life. they ate from the very tree they weren't supposed to eat from. Now, the tamarind tree, the book of Enoch, rather, didn't really say it was a tamarind tree. When he saw the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, what he said was it was a tree like unto a tamarind tree. And I realized that it was not a tamarind tree that was in the center of the Garden of Eden when I ate the fruit. And I would tell you about the fruit because I don't tell folk about that. So it's even forbidden for me to tell you what it tastes like and what's on the middle. So don't ask me. But I wanted to try that fruit just to see what it is like. And it is like that with so many of us. God will tell us not to go somewhere, and we want to go somewhere just to see what it's like. Just to see, is it really, should I not really fool with this person? And we end up saying, I wish I had listened to what the Lord told me not to do. Now, often what God tells you to do will line up with natural wisdom. Sometimes it won't, but usually it does. The current situation right now in Haiti has a governmental collapse. Haiti effectively has no fully functioning government. Gangs have taken over large parts of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Extreme gang violence. Armed groups control key ports, roads, and neighborhoods. Abductions, killings, and rapes are rampant. Foreigners, especially Americans, are frequent targets for ransom-based abduction. Hospitals, transportation, food distribution, and police systems are in near collapse. The U.S. State Department has issued Haiti on a level 4, do not travel advisory, its highest risk category. Now, it may be fine in 10 years, or 15 years, or 20 years, but God told me never, ever go to Haiti. So regardless, even if the U.S. State Department brings that warning down to a 1, so travel with little or no risk, he says never, ever, and that's a whole lot of reinforcing redundant words. But he wanted to let me know, no matter what happens, no matter when it is, that's one place you are never to go. And often God will protect you by just moving you away from the danger. In Acts 23:10, now when there arose a great dissension, the commander, fearing lest Paul might be pulled to pieces by them, commanded the soldiers to go down and take him by force from among them and bring him into the barracks. But the following night, the Lord stood by him and said, "Be of good cheer, Paul, for as you have testified for me in Jerusalem, so must you also bear witness at Rome." And when it was day, some of the Jews banded together and bound themselves under an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink till they had killed Paul. Now there were more than 40 who had formed this conspiracy. They came to the chief priest and elders and said, "We have bound ourselves under a great oath that we will eat nothing until we have killed Paul. Now you, therefore, together with the council, suggest to the commander that he be brought down to you tomorrow as though you were going to make further inquiries concerning him, but we are ready to kill him before he comes near." Paul's nephew overheard the plot and told the Roman commander. The commander ordered 470 Roman troops to secretly escort Paul in the night to Caesarea, which was a stronghold. Now, this is the interesting thing. The Bible never says what happened to them 40 men. Because what the Bible does say is they went before the chief elders and bound themselves with a great oath, saying, "We will neither eat nor drink until we kill Paul." But his nephew overheard him and went and told the Roman commander, and the Roman commander took a whole garrison of 470 soldiers and took Paul away in the night and took him to a stronghold. Now, the thing about it is this. He was kept in Caesarea for 2 years. Acts 24:27 talks about that. Paul lived for another 7 to 10 years after the oath was made. These men, these 40 men had said, we're not going to eat, no, we're not going to drink till we have killed Paul. And Paul didn't die until 7 or 10 years later. And I'm saying to myself, them men had to get a little concerned after about that third day. Now they've gone to the council and they didn't say they made a regular, they made a great oath, which was super binding. We're not going to eat, we're not going to drink till we have killed Paul. After that third day, and they couldn't find them, I was hungry. See, I went through a 40-day fast. So I can understand after about 2 weeks, they may have found where Paul was, but he was guarded by all these soldiers and they couldn't get to him. So after about 2 weeks, them 40 men, I said, whoa, my goodness, I'm hungry. But we have made a great oath that we would neither, now maybe they drunk some because when they made the oath to the council, they said they wouldn't eat. So maybe they was drinking some, but they couldn't eat. So after 40, because you can't make it but 7 days without drinking something, but you can make it a minute without food. After about 2 weeks, they had to realize they had made a grave error going against the Lord's people. But it just goes to show you that Paul was directed where to go and where not to go. And even when you had this big force of 40 men who made a vow that they would not eat nor drink until they killed Paul, God set in motion some stuff. I didn't even know Paul had a nephew. That's the only time he mentioned in the Bible is that nephew overheard him and went and told. And Paul was protected. See, some of your enemies have had meetings about you. And some people have decided they're going to take you down. But when you are in the army of the Lord and when you are in God's will, there is a protective force that is around you, that they cannot harm you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Now, it can form, and it doesn't say the weapon won't hurt you, but it won't prosper. When the enemies make plans to destroy you, God has already read the minutes of their meeting. He's already sent angels out to stand around, just like Daniel in the lion's den. The trap that was set for Daniel ended up coming back on the trap setters, just like Esther and Mordecai and Haman. The gallows that Mordecai built or Haman built for Mordecai ended up hanging Haman. So when God protects you, but you got to make sure you are not somewhere God told you not to be. I will never, never, ever be in Haiti. Even if somebody called me and they said, Pastor Bronner, we've heard you were a great preacher. We will pay you $10 million to come out here and deliver a sermon. I said, you got to keep them 10. Because I don't care what you pay me. I am not coming. So that is one place that under no circumstance will I ever go. And see, you got to understand that when you walk in the path that God has destined or ordained for you to walk in, there's a protection that goes. That's why I can go anywhere in the world, and I just don't worry. And sometimes I remember I was walking through Baltimore. Baltimore can be a rough city. And I walked for about 10 miles through Baltimore, and I would just go up and down. I just go through neighborhoods. But then I heard God say, don't go down that street. And I looked down the street. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I didn't see anybody hanging out and didn't look like it was a real dilapidated neighborhood. I didn't see anything wrong with it. But I just heard say, don't go down that street. I kept going. Because I did not want to go down that street and something happened. And then I said, that's why. God told me, Don't go down that street. So when God speaks a word of where you are not to go and where you are to go, listen to the directions of the Lord. And God spoke this to me a while back. Because in business, you have some challenges. We got a product that's real popular, and we got some people trying to take advantage. And God, he said, look, I will smite those who come against you and wrongly mistreat you. That's what he said. So some of these battles are just not mine. And some of the battles that you face, they're not. That's why God said, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. It's something that he spoke to me years ago. He said, you can never steal from the righteous. You can only borrow at extremely high interest. And you think somebody's going to take something from you or steal, and they can, but they're going to pay for that thing. You just got to make sure you're in the righteous. They're going to pay for that thing multiple times over. You cannot do wrong in a world ruled by, well, that's not true. You can do wrong. You just can't get away with it. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. That which you sow, ye shall surely reap, good or bad. So listen to the word of God. You will not die in the trap of the enemy. You will not be buried by their words. You will not fall in the hands of your enemies. You will preach again. You will live again. You will write again, like Paul. You will outlive the oath. You will outlast the threat. And you will overcome the attack. God closes a door for many reasons. What God closes, don't try to open. And what he opens, don't try to close. So just the simple act of obedience, of being where God tells us to be, and being not where God tells us to not go, will change so many of our lives as we move through this life. And people, there's some stuff coming. I just really, truly believe that. There's some stuff coming. The jobs report just came out, and it's distressing a lot of folk because the original estimates were like 140,000 jobs were going to be added. Only 20,000 were added. And this past month, there were 73,000 jobs added, which was less than half of the original forecast. And everybody's, blaming the government and the president. And it probably is his fault, but it ain't got nothing to do with it because you can't change that. Right. What folk are missing was where the jobs were added. Nobody's talking about this. There were 55,000 jobs added in the healthcare section. This is last month. It's just 1 month. 73,000 overall jobs added, but 55,000 were added in the healthcare section. 34,000 added in the ambulatory section, and 16,000 in the hospital staffing. 105,000 jobs. And I'm saying to myself, why they need 34,000 more ambulance folk just last month? What do they know that's coming? That they have to beef up hospital staff that much? What do they know that's coming? So people, God always forecasts to his people. So I tell you now, this is a win-win proposition. Get yourself in some shape. Because what may come may be tough. But if you got your immune system strong, that's what, get your vitamin D that we hand out every week. Get yourself in some shape. So even if it does, it's a win-win. If nothing comes, and I hope nothing comes. But if it does come, you got yourself in some shape. If it doesn't come, you're in better shape anyhow. So this is my directive to you, as God has kind of been really on me about taking health to another level, because God knows what's coming. And by them figures, I can't figure out why they add 105,000 jobs in the healthcare section last month and every other section is down. They know something is coming. So we don't mean to be caught out of shape. You got time enough now before the winter gets here, and I'm hoping this is nothing that God has spoken to me. I'm just looking at the figures. Somebody knows something about what's coming. So God will sometimes give us indicators of what not to do and indicators of what to do. We've always been health-oriented here, but I think this is going to be more critical than ever now because of what may come on this land may be stronger. COVID may have just been a test run. What may be coming may be stronger. And I want everybody in the ark to be strong and to be capable and to not be afraid of whatever the enemy is sending. So let's take ourselves to another level in all of the areas of our life. Hang around folk who are going to another level, because that will pull you. Bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for your direction. I thank you for your correction. I thank you for your prodding and your pressure to move me to another level. For it is like a father who wants his child to be better and to do well. And Father, I just pray over this entire congregation and those who are watching or listening right now, that the same grace and blessing and instruction be over them. And I simply pray that you open their hearts and minds to hear, but to most importantly, to heed. And to take us to another level in all of the 5 major areas of our life, that we may withstand the wiles of the devil. And though 1,000 may fall at our left and 10,000 at our right hand, it shall not come near us. Protect us as we walk in your path, and help us to stay in the path, to stay the course, and to be obedient unto you. In thy Son Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I'm going to ask my partner who has been with me for the last 30 days, George, I'm going to ask him just to come, and I'm going to ask him to just close us out for today. Amen. I don't have to worry about him being able to get down the stairs, because if he can come down those mountains, he can definitely come down those stairs. And I just thank him for being the inspiration. And a little child so leads you, even though he's 20, he's no longer a little child, but he is leading his daddy in helping me to be better. Reverend George Bronner.
Your new life will cost you your old one. Greetings, everybody. I apologize for the fit. I came here straight out of the workout room. Yes. But have you ever seen those paths, foot trails that form? They were unintended, but they formed because so many people walk them. Shortcuts, if you may. There's a direct road, but it seems to go all the way around, so people just cut across. Now, no grass grows here, and you know very clearly that this is a walkway. Similarly, I want you to imagine standing in the middle of a field, and everywhere around you, you see thorns and tall grass, overgrown, and you don't know which way to walk. Any way that you choose will be difficult to walk at first, but you choose one direction, there's thorns cutting your legs, you have to cut through all of the overgrown grass, but the more that you walk it, the easier it is to remain. The more that you walk it, the fewer thorns hit your legs. The more that you walk it, the more grass you can stomp out. The more that you walk it, the easier and smoother the pathway, until it's clear. There's hardly any challenge remaining at all. And yet everywhere around you now, the grass has grown taller, the thorns have grown sharper, and the pathway that you've chosen seems to be the only one you can remain committed to. Similarly, in our lives, we find that our habits and lifestyles are just like this. Any path that we choose initially is difficult, is uncomfortable, but the longer we remain in it, the easier it is to stay. And yet at the same time, we become discouraged by this, not remembering the fact that just as we started this pathway and it was difficult, so too will it be for the others. But just as we remained in this pathway and it became easier, so too it is for the others. And again, it's always easier to do it with somebody else. And again, the longer you remain committed to it, the stronger you become in it. You know, my father mentioned how I wasn't a fan of the cliff edges. Now, truth be told, going into this trip, I had one fear still remaining in my head, and that was of falling. And it surely was not convenient when I'm looking at the weather report and seeing 30-mile-per-hour gusts. And I'm standing on this mountain edge, and I'm looking over, and now there's breezes hitting me. But then I just remember, it's not in my hands. I very explicitly said, you know, if I slip once, I'm done. But that's fine, because I won't walk a step further than the Lord has planned for me. And it was in that moment in which I acknowledged the worst case possible scenario, but trusting in the higher power that I'll still reach the destination in the end, that I was fine. You know, I'm not one who's big on affirmations in which I say things that are not yet mine, but they will be. I'm a millionaire. It's just not true. But at the very least, I will work hard today, and as long as I continue to do that, maybe one day I can say, I'm a millionaire. I'm reminded of the highest mountain we had to climb, and it actually wasn't an official path at all. There was a much easier path that was longer, in which you went up a less steep slant and you walked around the mountain. But I saw that it looked humanly possible to go just straight up it. And so I told my dad I was going straight up. And he said he was not a fan. You know, he went up the regular pathway, and if I'm honest with you, it was about halfway up this mountain that I realized I see why this wasn't an official path. And I began to pray out loud, just saying, Lord, please keep me. You know, if I'm honest, if I could go back, I would not do this over again. But it's far less safe for me to try and go halfway back down backwards now. You know, my foot has already slipped once. I'm climbing on all fours, and I honestly just wish I had one person with me. And it was when I was near the top of the mountain, when I was pretty much already there, but I see that at the top, there's just this wall. And now it's not just all fours, but I effectively have to climb a wall to reach the pinnacle. And I'm questioning, for this final ascent, would it not just be easier for me to turn back around and walk all the way around? And as I'm sitting there on this mountainside, I turn to my right, and I see a small blonde boy literally running. Now, he doesn't run up the mountain, of course, but he's got a smile on his face. He pauses, he looks at the wall, and he begins to climb. And it's when I see this small blonde boy do it, I climb that mountain. I'll be honest with you, when I reached the top, I saw a lot of black. There was so much blood running to my head that I could hardly hear anything. I was very close to passing out. But it was because I saw one other person doing it with me. It was because I had already climbed several mountains beforehand that in the end I could say it was easy. And there was no point on that trail from then on that I felt the slightest struggle. It was all past me, even though it began with pain. My father had said earlier in the sermon that the Lord will send you through the wilderness in order to reach paradise. And when you're in that wilderness, all that you will desire is to turn around. But I implore you to remember that those pathways that were not intended only formed because you kept walking and you kept walking and you kept walking. You can turn around and return to your old life, but it all remains the same. Are you willing to endure the pain to reach paradise? Your new life will cost you your old one. Trust in God, knowing that if you slip, at least it's a quick fall. Have a great week, everybody.
Brothers of the world.